on this episode.
The movie was already greenlit. We were going, and they said, "What about Richard Dreyfuss?" And I thought, "No, we're never going to get Richard Dreyfuss." And then they said, "No, I think you might." So we got him on the phone. I pitched him. I said, "Hey, we're going to shoot this thing," and yada, yada, yada. And he read the script, and he said, "Oh, I get it. I'm like that Richard Crenna from Rambo." And I was like, "Yeah, basically." And he's like, "I'm in." And that was it.
From the coveted corner booth in a little bar in the center of the Coachella Valley Universe, welcome to another Big Conversation with Patrick Evans and Randy Florence. Gentlemen,
welcome to another edition of Big Conversations Little Bar. I'm Patrick Evans. My co-host Randy Florence is here. We are at Skip Paige's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, the center of the Coachella Valley Universe, one of the finest places to eat or drink that you could possibly find. It's gourmet food, craft cocktails. Occasionally Skip comes through and says hi.
The amazing Skip Paige.
The amazing Skip Paige. And that is the voice of Mike Hatton, our guest this week. First, though, before we get to Mike, Randy, how are you?
I'm good. Let's get to Mike.
You want to get to Mike? John, how are you, our producer? Okay, everybody's good. All right, let's get to Mike. Mike Hatton.
You know what? I'm not good.
Let's go back to Randy.
Good. You know what? I'm going to go. If we're not going to talk about you guys, we'll talk about Skip.
Yeah. So, Randy, you're not good?
No, I am good.
Okay,
Actually,
because I was going to ask
good.
you to talk to me about that.
About being good?
Anyway, enough of this tomfoolery. Our guest today is a gentleman who has stood on stage at the Academy Awards accepting an Oscar. Did you get a statue out of that deal?
No, I stood next to people.
You stood next to people, but you were in the movie.
Yes.
You were in the movie Green Book.
Yes.
You played the part of the bass player in the band.
George,
the bass player.
George Dyer.
And that must have been just a hell of an experience.
The whole ride was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and maybe other people's lives too, I guess, if it impacted them. Maybe my wife, I don't know.
That impacted me. That was an amazing movie.
Yeah, the movie was amazing. Yeah. And you were and I got to go along on part of that ride with you because that same year, just a few weeks before, you were back in Palm Springs, where you have a long history, and we're going to talk about that. But you got the Vanguard Award.
I did. Yes, I did get a Vanguard Award.
They invited the ensemble cast. That's an ensemble award that they give out each year. And so you walked the red carpet. I had a chance to interview you. We were hanging out at Melvin's the night before, which was a ton of fun.
Very cool, full circle moment for me.
Yes.
And what's also cool is it's one of the few movies that he's interviewed the people on the red carpet where he actually watched and liked the movie. So,
well, of course he did, because it's about an Italian guy.
It's an Italian guy. It was written by an Italian guy. I appreciated what was going on. And it's a cool, true story.
Yeah.
For those people who have not seen it or saw it a while back, go back and watch Green Book, because it is a terrific, terrific film. But it is a full circle moment, because when you and I first met, it was roughly 22 years ago.
Yep.
And you had moved out from Hobart, Indiana.
Correct.
And you were a television news photographer.
Yep.
Thinking, one day I'm going to make it big in the movie industry. But you started at this little Palm Springs affiliate.
I had hoped to make it at all, whether big or small, big or little.
Just trying to get out of Hobart, Indiana.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, growing up in the Midwest, you just don't. I guess you don't even have expectations. You just kind of think, oh, I need to work. I need to get a job. And then you think, well, what can I do that's going to maybe help me get to where I don't have to work or don't need a job? And then, so that was, I think, the TV route,
Now, when you came to CBS, we were a brand new affiliate. You helped launch the station. We were a group of the very first employees that Jackie Lee Houston hired. Had you been working in television prior to, or was this the first break?
Yeah, I had worked for a CBS affiliate in Terre Haute, Indiana. I went to school at Indiana State, who, by the way, is ranked 23rd in the nation right now for the first time since Larry Bird. So
That's
I just
right.
want to give ISU a shout out.
Just saw that on ESPN.com.
Very
Congratulations.
Cool. So, thank you. I have nothing to do with their success.
I'm sure you're a strong contributor to their alumni program with your...
I did, actually, thanks to Green Book, give a commencement speech. But that's another story for the Terre Haute version of this show.
Oh, I want to hear that story on this version of the show. So you come out to Palm Springs. You come out, you're from a very close-knit Irish family. And your
Irish,
brother,
Polish. Irish from the waist down. Polish from the neck up. No, but it's you grow up and you're in the Midwest.
That's the best line in 50 episodes.
he is trained as a comedian. Understand it. We're dealing with a professional here.
You think I got to get a job, and I knew I wanted to come to California, and a friend of mine who Drew Johnson, had gotten a job here as a sports anchor, and he was already hired to launch, and he was it wasn't the head guy, but he was going to be the weekend anchor, and we were working together in Terre Haute, and it's one of the reasons I believe talk about it out loud. I kept saying, well, I want to go to California, I want to get into the movie business.
Had you been in California before?
At that point, I had visited my brother when I was a junior. My brother was kind of living in Temecula, and and then they didn't stay. They moved to Austin, Texas.
That was your older brother?
My older brother, yeah.
Because you came out with your twin, Pat.
Yeah, I moved out here, and then he moved out a month after me because we were like, this is awesome. Like, what's not to like? Like, this was one of the greatest places to live, and
the Hatton boys, along with Drew, you guys had a house up in the Cove.
It was like a frat house.
It was the party house. That was the destination because it was like, there's something going on at the Hatton. There's
After
always
the bar.
something.
Like you would go
always
to,
something going on up there.
We go to Rock's Firehouse, and then we would end up back at our house until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And some of the weird guests that would show up there too, like if we ever met a celebrity and they liked us and wanted to continue the party, they would show up there too.
They would.
It was very strange.
And this was, again, this is 22 years ago, and you have to think about. The Cove is this terrific community, but it didn't have a sewer line back then.
No, I moved out right before they had to put those in, thank God. They wanted a lot of money for that.
They wanted a lot of money.
I'm getting out of here.
So that was your start here in California, and you started out as a cameraman. You did a lot. You and I worked together.
Yeah, I was your cameraman, and I would edit packages, and I was just trying to find my way in because when you're in the Midwest, you think, I can be a news anchor. That'll scratch the itch of wanting to be in front of a camera. That'll satisfy it. And then you get to see the inside of the TV business, and then you realize it's like, and it's wonderful, and I had a great time. But then I was like, no, I'm not doing what I want to do.
That wasn't scratching the itch for you. No. And you did end up, you worked on camera. Our program, Eye on the Desert, you were a correspondent for Eye on the Desert.
I had a blast doing that. I mean, what a time, right? You guys would send me out to the McCallum or wherever and do stories with
It sounds like your version of The Daily Show, with your correspondent going out into the field.
Because I wasn't considered, I wasn't considered a full reporter because I was in sales, and they didn't want to label me because of the journalism.
Or pay you.
Right.
Well, but what I loved about what you did, so Eye on the Desert used to be a full half-hour long show, and we did have a correspondent. Now,
I'll do it again, by the way. You bring me back. I'll be your correspondent again.
We have the same budget. So
you also have to be the cameraman.
Work with those parameters.
You make it, and then you find out, nope, you didn't make it.
No, you made it. We just can't pay you.
The job's yours.
That's right.
You can do it again.
Congratulations. But you had this great, as you do now, but you have this natural sense of humor. You had this great tongue-in-cheek delivery.
Oh, stop.
Well, wait a minute. IMDb says you are known for being funny, conversational, and sarcastic. Is that pretty accurate?
I would say that's true. You know who wrote that was our old friend Matt Wolf.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Matt put that up there.
Matt
he was like, you got to have something on the IMDb about you.
Matt was in our promotions department for many years.
So he wrote my bio on the Eye on the Desert website, and then that got migrated into the IMDb because they, fished for stuff about you. So I guess I'm going with that because Matt Wolf said it.
Okay.
Right, so
that's good enough for me.
Another, desert
You're doing
guy.
news photography, and then you did some work in sales department. I know you really liked that. You liked the guys you were working with, but also not what you wanted to do.
For a little while.
We don't talk anymore, but it was fun then.
Once in a while. What's the definition of talk?
But then you started to do things like you were venturing into LA and you were taking classes like in improv. When did you decide that the next step for me isn't on camera on television, it's something different?
I was actually still just doing camera work, and it was really early in to my living here in California in the desert, and I thought I have to start if I'm ever going to get to that goal, I got to start doing something. So every Saturday I would drive in to Hollywood. And I would go to, it was at Melrose, and it was next to the Improv on Melrose. And I would drive from, Palm Springs there every Saturday. And I would go in. Sometimes I would get lucky enough to find a place to stay, if you get my drift.
Understood.
Meet a nice little friend, and she would say, oh, yeah, you can stay. A lot of times it was driving in, take class.
Did you carry your Vanguard award around?
No, this is years before the Vanguard.
Before
Way before.
There's only one lady now who gets gets my trophy.
He would carry his Channel 2 win with CBS button that Jackie Lee.
Oh yeah, we did have a CBS button. That's right.
And he'd wave that around, and that might catch somebody's attention.
So I would stay out in LA sometimes on Saturdays. I really didn't get the. It's funny, you come out and everybody was so into the going out in Los Angeles and the bar scene and the clubs, and I didn't have a place there. So I just went in to train. I would go in, I would take class, and I became friends with my classmates. But I really then would just drive back here because this was where I lived. So I was only going out there in a professional capacity, and then through meeting people at Second City, sometimes we'd get casting directors come by, or sometimes we would get, people would come audit the class, and so I thought, I'm gonna. I'll come out and audition for them maybe. And then sure enough, a few weeks go by, they'd say, hey, I have a commercial and come audition. So I'd have to drive in on a Wednesday.
So what was your first nibble?
Well, funny enough, it was here. It was here in the desert was my first real, I had several auditions for TV commercials. That's usually kind of the entry-level actor thing is people would say, I have a commercial casting. And I don't remember when the first one of those was, but my first feature film audition was actually through here in the desert. Somebody said, hey, a friend of mine is casting something and they're going to shoot a movie. And I ended up auditioning for that movie, getting the role, and then that was my first feature film. And that was still while I was still very much on Eye on the Desert. So,
and did you know he was doing that at the time?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Was he asking you for professional acting advice?
No, absolutely not. No, he was the guy.
Maybe to act like an amazing on-air personality, weatherman,
and he does that
anchor,
frequently.
I give great credit to Mike because he was the guy that didn't just talk about it. I think we all, I lived in Orange County for a little while, and I thought, I had friends who were doing commercials. I'd like to do that. But I just never had the balls to go do it.
Yeah.
I had a steady job, and I liked knowing how much money is going to be deposited in my account every 2 weeks, and I had help in it, and I wasn't willing to step out of that comfort zone. And Mike was very willing to, take the risks that you have to take to do that. And that's why I love that it has paid off. Now, you do.
Thank you, Jesus.
Oh, this leads into the Plan B conversation.
No, stop it. Just stop it.
Well, that's a great conversation.
Well,
I didn't have a Plan B. There was no Plan B.
Well, that's the key answer. If there is none, then you're committed.
So there you go.
So you got that role, and now you're involved in a lot of producing. You're involved in acting, and you have your first directorial film. Can we talk about your film?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know for a while that was a.
Well, yeah, it was something we kind of were keeping secret because of the cast involved. They get a lot of clicks on the internet because of various news stories about them.
Yes.
And we can, I don't know how, if you want to talk about it now, if you want to keep talking more about here and there, how you want to get into this.
We'll build up to that because I think that's the big project that we want to talk about. But I want to, get you from Palm Springs into the producing of film because you connected with some people. Didn't you go to Turkey and shoot a film or Armenia? That was where you went.
Yeah. So basically. So from getting from the desert to that point was a lot of, auditions. You go out, you get something. A lot of my early success though was here in the desert. Somebody was making a movie locally. I auditioned for that movie, got the role. Then somebody would see that movie, then make a movie in LA, turn around, get that role. And so a lot of it was this snowball effect of getting work but it's really started here. And then people would hear more about. I can't stand hearing my own voice. I have to take the headset off.
It sounds really good, by the way.
That's great. I'm glad to hear. So it's and then but getting to the point where I produce. It's funny, the news business actually had a lot to do with that because I was always shooting and I was always editing, and I never wanted to just be an actor. I never wanted to just do that. I enjoy just also the making of it process.
Right, you like to take the product and then the raw material and then shape it.
Right. So I always thought the acting's fun and I enjoy it, but that's almost the silver lining to it. I enjoyed doing the other stuff. So I started getting into writing. I started getting into producing. I started, I dreamed. I actually the reason I ended up in Palm Springs was because I had applied to grad school because I wanted to be a movie. I wanted to direct as well. I wanted to do it all, like an Albert Brooks type of guy. And I didn't get into grad school. I didn't get into like a proper film school. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just move to California and see what I can do.
And do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of hard work and failing and falling and hopefully failing and falling upwards.
So a lot of producing involves the solicitation of funds to make your movie, and that's why you ended up in Armenia.
Exactly. So
tell us that story.
Well, so we had done a movie. I had done a movie here with God rest her soul, Denise DuBarry, and it was.
She gave a few of us. I did a couple of movies with Denise. She was
the
great.
Best. She was the best. And oh yeah, you were great in that, by the way. But we'll talk about that another time. Today's show is about me, Patrick. Today's show is about me. God damn it.
Well, really, it's about me talking about you.
At least until
Touche.
At least until the editing is done, Mike.
Damn you for always being the bigger star in this solar system. No, but Denise had done a movie, and I should have, in hindsight, I should have produced it, but I was so stupid at the time, and I was like, no, I want to act in it. I can't do it all. I'm focusing on my character, and it was just like, because you're in your 20s and you don't think, and she's kind of like, all right. She was just like, all right, whatever. So she had produced, basically given us the opportunity to make this small little independent movie, and then in hindsight she was like, hey, you should have produced this because you were involved, you helped raise the money, you helped shape the script, you helped do this, you helped do that. And then I learned a lesson. I was like, yeah, you're right, I should have done that, but I didn't. So then from there I thought, I'm gonna go out and produce my own content, and I can still act in it. And look at all these great producer actors out there. But you didn't see as much of this in the early 2000s, it was really then around that time when more like, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's when Tom Hanks opened his own production shell. Now Brad Pitt has Plan B. You've, countless actors and entertainers now have they're producers too. They're not just there to act. And they produce stuff that they don't even act in.
Well, when we get Brad Pitt, there's the perfect option. You can ask him about Plan B. That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? That's nice callback. Yeah, good one, Patrick.
So you're trying to finance a film.
Yes, and
you had co-written, correct?
No, I didn't. So I didn't co-write that one. So basically, I had just come off of a movie that I did co-write called Live Nude Girls. It's available on Tubi. I
got in trouble for following some of the stars in that film on Instagram. I finally had to stop.
But you were literally following them.
Yes, I was driving around behind it.
Well, as long as you were only following them to the strip club, they'd have been all about it. Because they were adult actresses who, and then of course...
He did this movie, and he was telling us about it. You were still at the TV station.
When I had the idea to do it,
when you started,
it was like a 6-8 year thing.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't they take adult actresses, from the porno industry basically, and put them into a mainstream project, use their following, and
so
brilliant.
Live Nude Girls actually does star adult film actors and some dancers
and of course mainstream comedic name actors as well, and it's like we didn't it wasn't an adult film, but what we did was we took adult stars, put them into a mainstream comedy film, like a Lampoon's type movie.
Right.
Might have been easier to hire all the other people after that, right?
Right. So exactly.
Yeah, I'll do that show.
Yeah. Oh, really? They're going to be there? Yeah. So we were lucky enough to have Dave Foley from The Kids in the Hall.
Oh.
And then luckily his involvement, it's funny, the adult actresses were not the ones who were easy to get. They were the ones who were like, are you sure you want me to oh, okay. And then they're like, it's a comedy. So that movie had been successful, and it made some money, and it got a nice release, as I love to joke about the word release when I'm talking about Live New Girls. Had a wonderful and explosive release.
Did you know from the tip that it was going to be success?
We don't say tip that often. That one's
what was the thrust of that film?
So the success of that movie led to somebody else coming to me and saying, well, what else you got? And at the time, I really didn't have anything. And I had a friend who had a project, Vigilante Diaries, and it was a web series that kind of had failed, and it wasn't very successful as a web series, but he had all this content shot, and I thought, well, we can take that and we can, make it, into something else. So I went to my
local filmmaker, Christian Sesma.
Christian Sesma, wonderful guy and he's also the director who gave me my first movie and gave me my first break. And I love Christian, and what a wonderful guy.
No, he's a great guy. I've acted in a couple of his films as well,
including one.
You and I were yes. Well, you helped me get that part.
Well, by turning down that role and taking the role of the bumbly sheriff, and then.
So there's a movie called Every Last One of Them, and Christian directed it. You were producing. Did you produce that?
I produced it. Yeah.
So Mike was producer, Christian, and we need to have Christian on. He's got a movie premiere coming up on Friday here that he shot. He likes to shoot stuff out here, and so Mike calls me and says, "Hey, would you be able to do this?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he's like, "Well, you have to be a congressman, and you have like a pretty good scene." And he said,
a couple of scenes, right?
Yeah, a couple of scenes. And he said, and you don't have a scene with Richard Dreyfuss, but Richard Dreyfuss is in the movie. And I'm like, I'm in. Are you kidding me? Sign me up. And
Goodbye, Girls.
And it was in the middle of the pandemic.
It was in the middle of the pandemic.
Like, a lot of people were still locked up, or not, not locked up, but you know what I mean. And we're out here. We were one of the first crew of people making films in the pandemic. So. And thank you to the desert, because the desert and especially out there at Fantasy Springs, they said, yeah, the casino is open, you can use our location to shoot. So thank you to Paul and Mandy and everybody out there.
Yeah, it was great. They were great. And then Weber, who's the actor.
Jake Weber.
Jake Weber.
Jake Weber. Yeah, Jake's awesome.
Here, and this is one of my kick myself moments. I spent a bunch of time with this guy, Jake Weber. He was in the scene. We were on set together several times, and it wasn't until I got home after the last day I realized that he was in Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn it. Like, because I'm,
Well, Jake's a good friend if you ever want to reconnect.
I do. I would like to reconnect, because I'd like to pick his brain about,
Jake's the best.
There always has to be one Star Trek reference on our podcast, and there it is. So,
and that's Patrick's rule. That's not mine.
I love me some Star Trek. I hope one day I can be a part of that universe myself. My dad was a huge Trekkie.
Oh, and, man. See, now you have to be, because that I can get on set.
Yeah, see, that would be great.
So last night in my acting class, we had to improv, and we had to take a character. And you came to my mind, and I was William Shatner.
No way.
William Shatner. Yeah. Trying to ask a woman out, and she wouldn't go out with me.
No?
Yeah.
Well, wait. Now, hold on. If you were William Shatner, first of all, you wouldn't have to ask a woman out. And secondly, because they would ask him out. It's William Shatner.
Yeah, but...
Am I wrong?
Yeah, 100% right.
This is what they were looking at. They weren't looking at William Shatner.
You, Randy, but you're not William Shatner.
It's like this. You need to sell.
Yeah,
Shatner.
I tried.
Okay.
What's wrong with you? No, mine's not that
Why
great.
won't you go out with me?
You had Jake and you had Richard Dreyfuss, and the pandemic was also part of how you got Dreyfuss. He was just bored.
He was bored. I had a friend of a friend said, "What about Richard Dreyfuss?" The movie was already greenlit. We were going, and they said, "What about Richard Dreyfuss?" And I thought, no, we're never going to get Richard Dreyfuss. And then they said, no, I think you might. So we got him on the phone. I pitched him. I said, hey, we're going to shoot this thing and yada, yada, yada. And he read the script and he said, oh, I get it. I'm like the Richard Crenna from Rambo. And I was like, yeah, basically. And he's like, I'm in. And that was it. And
that's gold, that invitation.
He was like, it's gold. It's gold. It's shit covered gold. But it's still gold. It's iron pyrite.
But that was after you guys partnered for the Vigilante Diaries, and that's where you found the Armenian guy that backed your movie.
So same there. So the guy, my office had been in a place, and I met a guy, and he said, "Hey, you want to shoot a movie in Armenia?" And the answer is always yes. A rule we learn in improv. You always say yes. So I was like, "Yeah, we'll shoot a movie in Armenia. As long as you're paying for it." And he actually, that guy's become one of my dear friends and producing partners too. And so we went to Armenia, shot a movie there. We shot pieces of that movie here in the desert. We shot a bunch of it in Los Angeles, and then we shot a good majority of it in Armenia. So, and that movie ended up part of HBO.
That was part of his the ask. So he's got the money, but he wants the film shot in Armenia.
Yeah.
And so you say yes because funding.
He's got the money.
Because I've never been to Armenia. Go to Armenia. And that's the thing too. That's one of the things I love about my job is that I've traveled the world, man. I've gotten like a guy from fucking
Hobart,
Indiana. I've been to Armenia. I got detained shortly on that trip in Moscow because at the time I had a beard, which a lot of people like beards like just kind of came back in fashion in the last few years. And they like detained me for a short time. Turned out they were just fucking with me. My friends were watching the monitor and they were all laughing and giggling and speaking Russian. But
wow,
that was fun.
That's a good prank.
Yeah, they just thought, we're gonna fuck with this guy. Luckily, I didn't crack. I was like laughing and enjoying. They're trapping me for a little while. So
you can add that to your list. Detained in Moscow.
Detained shortly in Moscow.
Let's move forward. So we've already talked about every last one of them. Let's talk about how your role in Green Book came about and your friendship with the man who wrote that movie.
So I met Nick Vallelonga actually through Christian Sesma. Christian, the local director here in Palm Springs. Nick was at a screening in Newport Beach years ago, and we're waiting to watch that Denise Dewberry movie that I did, Shoot the Hero. And this guy walks in a black suit and Elvis glasses, and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? I gotta meet that guy. I just saw him walk in. I'm like, who's that guy? I gotta meet that guy. And my friend Paul Sloan, who of course has become a dear friend of mine and a writing partner, etc., and stars in a bunch of these movies, including every last one of them, he says, oh, that's my friend Nick. Yeah, you gotta meet him. So I meet Nick. Nick and I hit it off immediately, become friends. And Nick says, hey, I'm always here for you, whatever you need. And Nick had already had a successful career making independent movies. Nick was an independent film producer, writer, director, and he'd done it all. And when I made Live New Girls, I called him and I said, hey, I need help. I need advice. And he hooked me up with people to do music. He hooked me up with locations. He had so much advice and help. And then he did it again on Vigilante Diaries. Same thing. It was like, oh, I'll introduce you to this guy, that guy. And on that movie, I finally said, Nick, why don't you just help us produce this? Now, this is before Green Book. And he's like, and Nick was already working on it. At this point, he was already producing a movie with John Travolta, like a big action movie. And he said, well, I don't know, what's the budget of your movie? And okay, he's kind of got this, all right, I'll do it. Why not? I called him up and I was like, listen, we can't afford you, but you get to come with us to Armenia and it's all expenses paid and we're going to have a fucking blast. So he said, okay, I'll do it. So I sold him on partnering with me and another friend to produce the Vigilante Diaries. And then that kind of led into this friendship where he saw, hey, this guy, me, isn't so bad. He's, a young up-and-coming guy.
Got some potential.
I'll work with him and make him good. And then Nick kind of brought me on to do some producing with him on some smaller projects and whatnot. And then the whole time he's telling me, well, I got this movie I'm working on about my father. I got this movie I'm doing about my dad. And, you think, whatever. Like, I'm not, like, come on, a movie about your dad? Like, how good's that going to be? Like, if they did a movie about my dad, people would pay me not to make it. No, I love you, Dad. I'm just kidding. But it's like, you don't take everything, because it's Hollywood. And even when you're talking to somebody who you take seriously, you don't take everything they say seriously. So I didn't know. And then, later on, as the Italians like say, come to find out, he's got he gets this guy who's also a friend of ours who I met through Nick, Brian Hayes Curry, and he are writing the script. And then you're like, wow, Nick and Brian are writing the script. Well, that's cool. And Brian's one of the funniest people I know, and that's great. But still, you're like, I don't know, what are they working on? What are these guys working on? And then later on, we find out, they're working on it with Peter Farrelly.
Wow.
And Peter Farrelly, of course, is, the greatest, I think the greatest comedy director of all time. He and his brother Bobby, of course. And at that moment, you're like, wait, fuck, are you kidding me? They're working on this with Peter Farrelly? Like, this is
new
is
level
legit.
there, yeah.
This is legit. So then at that point, it's like, you just go, fuck, how do I see it? How do I read it?
How do I get into this universe?
How do you get involved? How do you grab onto that bumper in any way possible? And that's the reason it takes so long to find out who's all involved, because in Hollywood, it's just, you got to be so secretive and protective, because you just can't. Otherwise, everybody in town, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be some great good idea. Everybody wants to latch onto it. So in this shape, I don't know what Nick's dad's story is. I don't know anything about it, but I know that they're working on it, and it's super legit. They actually wrote some of it at Toscana, I guess. They were staying out here at a house, and so then, he calls me. I don't know. Couple years still, like a year and a half before it's getting made, and he says, hey, the movie just fell out at Focus, the one, the movie about my father, the one I'm doing, it just fell out. And at this point, he and I have already, like, really good friends. He's been, a mentor over the years, taught me a lot. And he says, listen, I know you're really good at, rustling up some money, and we're looking for some money to make this thing. And I'm like, well, how much are you looking for? And it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we got half the budget, and we're looking for the other half. And I'm like, well, let me read the script. So I'm coming back from Louisiana, and he sends me the script, and I'm on the plane, and I shit you not, and this doesn't happen a lot. I read the script, and I fucking cried. I started crying. I'm sitting in the last seat on I'm on Spirit Airlines.
Yeah, so you were already in tears anyway.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Close to it anyway.
Super emotional
Close
flight.
to it.
I'm flying the plane.
And I go, I start crying. I say, this is the most beautiful script I've ever read in my life.
And not a traditional Peter Farrelly comedy.
No.
I mean, just
and when you read the
beautiful
script,
film.
And when you read the script, here's the thing. When you go and watch the movie's actually very funny.
Yeah, oh no, they're great comedic parts in it.
But when you read some of that stuff on the page, and as a filmmaker, you can get it. You can see, I can see where they're going with that. But if you were to just read it, like, it's not like a traditional comedy. It's not a funny movie, quote unquote. You got to make that's that thing about actors, performances, and that's the genius of Farrelly, is like a maestro in an orchestra. He knows how to take those guys and say it like this, do it like that, make that face. That's a good face. Like, so, so on the page, it wasn't all like that comedy that we saw on screen, but I just read it and thought, this is sorry about that. This is the most beautiful script I've ever read in my life, and I thought I gotta help with this somehow. So I took it to some investors that I know, big money guys, and I was like, hey, this movie is the best script I've ever read. And I have it in writing in an email. I go, this movie's gonna win an Academy Award. Matt Wolf saw this email because he knew the people I sent it to, and they were like, we can't wrap our heads around it. We don't know how to. It has, Viggo Mortensen. It already had Viggo, Mahershala, Pete.
All these people were attached.
All these people were attached. Mahershala had already won an Oscar, right? Viggo was already like the king of Middle Earth. Like, how are you not just writing a blank check to these people?
You think money would fall out of the sky?
Exactly, and it didn't, and it was crazy to me. So I'm like trying, and then Nick calls me a couple weeks later, and I felt like I was close with these guys, but they weren't getting it, and they had funded some big movies. And Nick's like, hey, it's too late. The movie's gone. And I'm like, man, like I'm heartbroken because I'm thinking I want to produce this thing.
You cried over the script.
I mean, literally, yeah. I did. And so I'm thinking, I want to be a part of this. And Nick's like, it's gone. And I said, man, who's doing it? Like, who came in to do it? Amblin and Steven Spielberg. And then at that point, I'm like, wait, Steven Spielberg's doing it? Yeah. Oh. And then I loved it because I get that call when I go back to the investors that I was talking to. I'm like, hey, Steven Spielberg's doing the movie.
Yeah, you guys missed it. Sorry.
You missed out.
That ship sailed.
You I don't want to say it because I like these guys and I'm friends with them, but man, they made a big fucking mistake.
Well,
big mistake that potentially could have made them, and they were already rich, but like, you know how rich people like being rich? They want to be even more rich. You know,
They also
Randy
like winning
does.
Oscars.
Randy is a former
Right.
banker. He
Right.
loves how rich people like being rich.
so it's like, you know, he goes, I say, you could have done it, whatever, c'est la vie. So I think I'm out. And like I said, I'm good friends with Nick at this point. So the movie starts going. So like a year goes by, and I'm like, what's going on with the movie? Like, and everything. And he starts disappearing. Like, you don't hear from him for weeks, a month, whatever. And we had other projects we'd been working on before. So I'm like, why haven't I heard from Nick? He's deep in pre-production. And so I'm calling him, and I don't hear from him. And then finally he calls me back. Hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, you know, I want to audition for the movie. Yeah, everybody wants to audition. Everybody wants to be a part of it.
Tell me something I don't know.
I'm like, no, but Nick, I really just, man, like, please, like, I tried to help, like, before it was anything. Please, just get me an audition. I really just want to meet Peter Fairley. I don't care if I don't get a part. Like, and a lot of actors will be as bold as asking for a part. I wasn't doing that. I was like, give me an audition. Because I thought I want to win it on my own merit.
A fair ask.
Yeah.
After what you were doing.
Totally. So I said, he's like, well, there's no role for you. And I'm like, this guy, look, how about the guy who introduces the band? And he's like, well, they're going to hire somebody in New Orleans for that. And I'm like, I'll be from New Orleans. I'll introduce the band right now. I'll do it right now. And he's like, he's like, no, they're going to hire a local hire. I was like, I'll work local. I don't care.
I will move to New Orleans.
Yeah, I'll move to I got a house there right now. Right on St. Charles.
I'm in escrow.
I'm drinking a bit julep right
I
now
live
on
with
my
Brad
porch.
Pitt.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Angie Jolie. So I'm like, no, I'm not begging him, but I'm like,
But you're
sounded
leaning
like-
pretty hard.
yeah, I'm pushing him. And he's like, well, there's no role for you. And then all of a sudden, and like, he's my friend at this point. We start fucking screaming at each other. He's like, there's no fucking role for you. And I'm like, fuck. I was like, just give me a fucking audition, bro. I was like, just an audition. And then he goes, wait a minute, hold on. He goes, you play the bass, right? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, because you said the band. And it got the wheels turning. And he goes, you know, he starts laughing. He's like, I can't believe I'm saying this. He goes, there's a guy. He's like, there's some names we're looking at for the bassist, but they don't know how to play the bass. He's like, you know how to play the bass? I'm like, yeah. He's like, wow. And then all of a sudden he's like yelling at me again. He's like, because this guy loves to yell. He's like, well, how good are you? Are you any good? I'm like, and Nick's a big Beatles fan, and I was like, I'll play Come Together right now, literally. I'll play some Beatles songs and impress you. He's like, no, I believe you. He's like, look, I tell you what. He's like, what do you look like right now? And I hadn't seen the guy. He disappeared because he's in pre-production. I'm like, I got a beard. He's like, shave the beard and meet me tomorrow at the music store in Sherman Oaks. So I'm like, all right. And I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. I know he's not sent me. And I had read the script, but I don't know what he's thinking. He just says the bassist in the band. And I hadn't read the script in a long time. So I go back that night. I'm like, holy shit. This is one of the leads. Like, this is not, you know, just some one-line guy, which is what I was begging to audition for. So I thought, I got to play this cool. But, so I shaved my beard. I put on he's like, wear a tuxedo. So I put a tux on. I go down to this music store in Sherman Oaks. I've never held an upright bass in my life. I was a rock and roll bassist. I play rock songs.
You used to play in a band. We used to go see him with Dirty Nellies. You guys played there.
Yeah, we used to play here with my brothers. So
Yep.
it's like, we didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. So he just says, you know, he goes in, he goes, give him this bass. So I take this bass. He takes a picture on his iPhone, turns the picture black and white, texts it to Peter Fairley and Brian Curry. Texts it to Brian first. And Brian's like, holy shit, he looks great. I mean, I had my hair all slicked back. And then he texts it to Pete. Pete's like, that's great. He looks great. I passed the first step. Then it's like, I'm just, you know, I'm sitting with Nick at a pizza parlor now after we took the photos. ... You know, you're watching the iPhone, the dots on the text messages he's typing. He's like, can he act? And then Nick's like, yes, he's an actor first, but can play the bass. Then it's like, ... Is he cool?
Aw.
And then Nick's like, he's a dear friend. Don't worry about him. Socially, he'll be out with us. It'll be great. So then he says, all right. And then 2 days later, I get a call from Nick. He goes, you got to go in. You got the audition. You got to be in Beverly Hills tomorrow. So he sends me the sides I memorized my scene. I go in the next day with my bass. I brought my acoustic bass because I don't have an upright. And I played a couple songs, and I did the audition, and the rest is history.
How hard was it to transition to the upright bass, though? You had to learn. That's a different skill set.
Yeah, it's like
similar, but
it's like, I mean, here's the thing: it's like riding a bicycle and then moving up to a motorcycle. It's a lot harder. There's no frets. It's, but I took lessons. I had a great guy, Mark Gasway. The production was smart enough to recognize, like, the guy can play the bass, but he needs training. So I took training with this guy, and he taught me and showed me some tricks. And the same with my co-star, Demeter. He didn't actually play the cello. He was a violinist, but they trained him on the cello. And it was all about, they wanted to hire actors who were able to actually transition over and play.
Did you know when you walked out that you'd gotten the job?
No.
So tell me how you found out.
My God, I wish... I just blanked. I don't know if I remember how I found out. I remember. Nick and Brian, we went out for drinks when we're talking about other stuff, and then all of a sudden there were like 3 other friends of ours there, and they said, hey, we're buying the round, we have to celebrate. And I'm like, what are we celebrating? And then they go, you got the part.
Oh, man.
So it was awesome.
That is incredible.
It was awesome. And it was life-changing. I mean, I knew, and I told my wife, I said, this is going to change my life. Because I had to leave. I have 3 kids. So I had to leave and go to New Orleans for 8 weeks.
And you were posting from New Orleans. You couldn't tell people.
Couldn't talk about what it was.
And I'm like, what is my? We're friends.
So you didn't know what he was doing?
Oh no, I had no idea. But I mean, he's always doing something. Like it's just one of those things. And every time I see one of these posts, like when he was in Armenia, I'm like, this guy used to be my photographer. What am I doing wrong? Like, how did I screw this?
I didn't know Armenia was that great of
I've never been. I'd like to go.
And then you went, wait a minute, it's going to be hot today.
It's pretty spectacular, actually.
No, so you got to shoot down on the road in New Orleans on location.
It was the best time of my life, and I'm sitting here working with guys like Vigo and Mahershala and of course Peter Farrelly, who I'd grown up watching all of his movies, and just thought, this is it. This is it. It's really something special. And the whole time I knew, like on set, I'm going, this is really special. And at one point I said, like, I look, I'll be honest, we're in New Orleans. You go out a lot. There's a lot of drinking in New Orleans. So after work, you get out sometimes. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. The bars would still be open.
Oh, yeah.
So we'd go out, and I remember at one point, I must have had a bottle of wine to myself, and we're all out, and I say to Vigo, I'm like, I say to Vigo, like, we're friends, but I mean, like, at this point, we'd been working together already. We're in the trenches,
That's
so we
awesome.
are. And
You're
I go,
certainly all friends while you're on the set.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's just you guys.
Really? And I say to him, I go, this is going to win all the fucking Oscars. And Vigo's like, shh.
Don't jinx
He's like,
it.
don't jinx it. And I'm like, you know what? It is, though. And at one point, and then it's all of a sudden, you look at everybody's faces, and everybody's smiling, and they're all like, yeah. Like,
You could feel it on
set. You really
set,
felt
huh?
the magic on set. Yeah. You really did.
Well, I mean, 2 incredible charismatic performers as your 2 leads, and the story. I mean, Nick tells a great story.
Yeah.
And it's a true, not for nothing, it's a true story too. So,
yeah. And Pete and Brian, the things that the 3 of them were the perfect combination, because Brian Hayes Curry is one of the funniest motherfuckers I've ever met in my entire life. He's a genius writer. And he's a great actor too, but like, just the guy's great. And then Peter Farrelly, he's the greatest. So you get the 3 of those guys together, they really did write something that was just magical. And I'm just lucky enough to be involved.
When he was finally able to announce it, I'm like, that's a legit movie. Like, this is the real deal. Like, Mike is now, in the upper echelons of this business. And it was just fun because I knew him when he was just a kid from Hobart, Indiana, having fun playing TV.
So at this point, what do you prefer? Behind the camera, in front of the camera?
I like it all.
Yeah?
I really do. I like all of it. I like the acting. I like writing. I like producing. I mean, look, if you have to pick one, I mean, I enjoy acting the most because you get to step out of yourself, and and it's the easiest thing, in my opinion, to do, because once you get the part, all you have to do is then be able to be good. If you're good enough, or good, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I'm good or whatever. But like, if you can make a character that's convincing, then, and you only have to be responsible for yourself.
Be on time and know your lines.
Exactly. And it's like, if you're producing, then, and in this latest thing I did, I produced, I directed, I was acting in it. I'm one of the stars of it. So like that was the most pressure I've ever had in my life.
Well, let's transition to talk about that, but we'll finish, though. Green Book got all these great accolades. You were invited to the Palm Springs Film Festival, which was a great homecoming for you.
Oh, man, it was
to
the
come
best.
back having covered that film festival.
And volunteered. I was a volunteer at the Palm Springs Film
my
Festival
goodness.
back in the day.
And now he is walking the red carpet getting the Vanguard Award. And that was such a cool night. I just, it was so fun for me to be able to interview you, my former colleague.
It was the best.
It was the best. And, Nick, and you'd introduced me to Nick the night before. And Peter Farrelly walked up, and this was one of the craziest interviews. And I need to dig up the videotape.
Wait, with me? My interview? Or somebody else's?
No, with Peter. Because
okay.
Peter, like you and Nick came along, and then Peter came.
Oh, yeah, because we all kind of get, yeah.
And I've always wondered if you put Peter up to this.
I didn't, because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, he walks up, Peter Farrelly,
I've
the
never
director
heard
of the
this
film.
story. I don't think you've ever told me this.
He walks up, and we're about to start the interview. We're live. And I said, I'm here with Peter Farrelly, director of Green Book. And I introduced myself. He goes, wait a minute, I know you. And I said, I'm sorry? He goes, yeah, what do you... I said, well, I am a reporter and the weatherman. He goes, no. You sing. I said, what? He goes, don't you sing at Melvin's? I've been in Melvin's. I've seen you sing. You sing Sinatra. You're good. I was like,
Peter Farrelly.
The guy's got an incredible memory.
That was unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's great.
I'm just like, and I was like, Mike must have told him that.
No, I swear I never told him that. I never even heard this.
I think you should tell him that there's a good movie around a podcast that takes place in a booth in a bar.
And we can get Clint Eastwood to play you.
We want a younger person in that role.
I thought Clint was good casting for you. I think about this a lot.
Okay. Clint Howard, maybe. Ronnie Howard's brother. I look a little more like
Clint
him.
Howard has been in multiple productions of Star Trek, as a matter of fact. It was his first appearance as an actor. Original series.
Really?
He played Chewbacca?
Stop.
Wrong universe.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about the movie that you've got. This is your first directorial debut here. This is the first movie you've directed.
Yeah.
And you wrote it?
I wrote it.
Produced it? And you're starring
And
in
I'm
it.
starring in it alongside.
And your production company is called Tons of Hats.
Yeah, a ton of hats.
And
Yeah.
you wear a ton of hats in this.
You have to in this business. But I enjoy doing it. Yeah, I enjoy wearing all of the many hats and jobs.
You had to
that I
keep
have.
the cast under wraps for a while.
Yeah. We the cast is, aside from myself and the amazing Paul Sloan, who I was talking about earlier. Paul and I wrote a movie that is very meta, where people play themselves. I don't. I play a character, thankfully. But we cast Nick Cannon, who's incredible, who's truly one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. And we cast Mickey Rourke, who plays himself. We cast a guy, Till Schweiger, who's an incredible actor out of Germany, who was in Inglourious Bastards. And we cast Alec Baldwin, who's playing himself. Alex playing himself in the movie. So we had to kind of keep it under wraps because...
Well, he's a bit of a controversial figure at the moment.
Stuff going on right now.
He's got some stuff.
Yeah. And it's, we cast, here's the thing. When you're making a movie, you want to get the best actors you can, right? And you want people who are great for the roles. And Alec is truly, in my opinion, he's one of the greatest of all time. He really is. And so when the opportunity came up to work with him, I didn't flinch. And unfortunately, he was going through everything that he's been dealing with that whole thing. And it's, a horrible, tragedy and a horrible accident. But, it doesn't take away from the fact that he is who he is. And it doesn't take away from his gift that he's just an amazing actor and a wonderful human being.
How was he to work with?
Oh, my God. It's such a pleasure.
I mean, here you are.
Amazing.
You're a pretty young guy. And you've gotten
Thank you.
you got some
What'd you
success
say? Keep going.
on your track record here, but you're directing Alec Baldwin. Now he's playing himself, but you have to direct Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, because he's playing himself, but he's writing things that I wrote. And don't get me wrong, he rewrote it with me to make it,
more him.
Right.
Yeah,
but you're
just things that he thought, I'm not going to say it like this. I'm going to say that like this.
But he's still playing a role. which you wrote.
Yeah.
So you still have to direct them. Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, directing Alec is here's the thing. I think it's a lot easier to coach Major League Baseball if you've got guys who can play Major League Baseball on your team.
Yeah.
I mean, Alec is, the guy's a legend, and he's one of the best of all time. So having access to a guy at that level makes your job that much easier. You really, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to sit here and have to say, oh, I didn't have to direct him, because of course I did. But at the same time, I don't, it's one of those things, actually from Peter Fairley told me one time, I don't think Pete said a word to me on set one time for 3 weeks outside of hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, hey, what are you eating for lunch? He didn't say any direction to me on set, and he said, hey, I want you to know something. I'm not telling you what to do because you're doing what I need you to do without me having to tell you. And as a young actor, I'm like, wow, that's invaluable.
He can go deal with other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
He's focusing more on the things that he needed to focus on. And with Alec, it's kind of a lot like that. You go, sometimes he might say something and you go, hey, and then he would go, let me try it like this. And all of a sudden, he would fix it. Or he would go, that didn't come out right. Let me try it like that. So a lot of the times, it's not that I didn't, like I said, I'm not saying I didn't have to direct him, but he makes it a lot easier. If you've got the best piece of equipment out there, it's like golf. If you've got the best driver, it's going to make your shot a little better, whether you're doing it or whether the club's doing it.
All right, so you finished the final edit of this. I saw the trailer. You showed it to me a few months
Hollywood
ago.
Heist.
Hollywood Heist is the name of the film. Co-written
by myself, Paul Stallone, and starring Nick Cannon, Alec Baldwin, Mickey Rourke, Till Schweiger, Tara Reid as herself. She's hysterical. It's very,
All right.
and Danny Trejo. And I almost
that's
forgot.
right, Danny Trejo.
Yeah,
Oh, my
Trejo.
goodness.
Just added
this
Danny
cast
Trejo.
is on. Mike put together.
I'll go watch the show just for
it's
Danny.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, Danny's great. And I love Danny. And the reason I forget to mention him is because we had to wait for the strike to end to shoot his scenes. So
you shot all of the film.
The whole movie was done before the strike, and then we had to wait for the strike to end and then finish the movie. Wow. And we finished it in December. So we just locked photography in the last week. And
now you just got to go through sound and
mix,
color correction,
virtual effects, and then we're gonna then put it out for the world to not for the world, not for the public, but we're gonna put it out to the buyers, the distributors, the festivals, and see where it goes.
Very cool. Well, I have a feeling you'll be coming back to the Palm Springs International Film Festival.
Man, that would be awesome. Actually, you know what? I would love it if it would have a premiere or something in Palm Springs. That would
something tells me that's I'm going to be interviewing again on the red carpet.
I would love that.
He's going to be our second guest.
It would be really fun,
episode.
though. And I'm just, don't do it for real. But the first, when you're walking, just walk like you're not going to talk to us. Here's the director. Hollywood Heist. He's a friend of mine, Mike.
I'm sorry, Patrick. I'm sorry, Patrick.
I want to have that moment. Then you can come back and say, I'm just kidding.
I couldn't do that to you.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, this is so exciting for you. And I know I followed you through the process, and it was exciting, but had to be incredibly stressful.
It was a lot of stress. It was both. It was exciting and stressful because, you're dealing with Nick Cannon gets a lot of clicks, for obviously.
Just his kids.
Yeah, he's got a big family. You know what?
He's a family guy.
Here's the thing. He really is. And it's one of those things. It's the guy's the busiest guy in show business.
Well, he's the busiest guy, period.
That's not even acting.
Busiest guy in the bedroom. God love him. And you know what, though? I loved sitting. I remember I was at a dinner with he and Alec. It was actually on Oscar night. This is no joke. Last year on Oscar Sunday, I'm at a dinner. It's the first time that Nick and Alec are going to shoot the next day. Their scenes are going to shoot the following day. It's Oscar Sunday. We're in Beverly Hills at this Greek restaurant. On Rodeo. I cannot remember what the name of it is. And it's me and my partner are sitting and we're like, oh my God, we're with Nick Cannon and Alec Baldwin at this restaurant during the Oscars. Wow. Right? Which to me is just as big of a deal as being at the Oscars. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting with two incredible, talented guys. And then people are looking at us, and Kimmel makes a joke about Cannon and the kids. And he makes a joke about him having a huge family, And I was just like,
well, and Nick had to leave the dinner early because his wife was ovulating, so he had to get home.
somebody was ovulating.
Look, here's the thing. Dude, here's the thing. If you could do it, would you? Hey, if you could do it, would you? If you could have all the wives and all the kids, would you do it? Maybe not.
No.
Would you?
No.
No, my wife wouldn't let me.
There's an old saying that bigamy is the problem of having one wife too many, and monogamy is the same thing. So.
But he and Alec both.
I think Nick's going to discover that.
Alex got 7 or 8 kids, and Nick's obviously got a lot of kids. And honestly, I have 3. And I kind of look at them both and go, I don't know, maybe I'd do it if I could. I don't know. There's a little bit, but then again, I don't know.
I want to touch very briefly on your family because your wife has Coachella Valley roots. I used to have to report against her.
Oh, man.
This is
She's
prior Christine Lazar.
Who now is on CBS KCAL.
KCAL CBS in L.A., but she was here as a reporter at KESQ when KESQ and CBS2 were competitors and not, and I was a reporter in the field, and I had to go up against her, and she should be on 60 Minutes. She's a tough as nails reporter. We need to get her on the podcast, quite frankly. I'd like to get one of the successful members of the Hatton family. No, I'm kidding. It's terrible to take a shot at you.
I'm on the Lazar clan, not the Hatton clan.
But she had a great career out here, and then went to L.A. And you guys are kind of the L.A. Hollywood story. You're making movies, and she's doing television news at the highest level.
Yeah. Well, I'm very lucky.
Cool.
She's been really successful, and like you, has won a couple Emmys, and or a few Emmys. Or how many Emmys do you have? I think
I have a couple.
She does, yeah. She has 3.
She's got me beat.
Okay, maybe
I didn't want to say I only have 2,
you're a member of the Lifetime, whatever. She's not there yet. But
she has to work longer.
Yeah,
and you have 3 kids. They're still pretty young. I mean, you got to balance all of this.
Yeah, it's busy, man. There's a lot going on under the roof of our house. And truthfully, I don't know how she does it. She actually keeps it all together. I'm just lucky enough to kind of float in and out. And I guess as long as I continue to work and contribute to our bank account, then she'll keep me around.
Things will be good.
She loves me.
All right, so we are looking forward to seeing Hollywood Heist.
Yeah, Hollywood Heist. I don't have a release date. I don't have any information on where you can watch it, but I have a feeling it's going to be out for a lot of people to see.
Given just taking the cast at face value, someone's going to want to move this film.
Yeah.
There's no question about
it. We've had offers. We had offers blind on the announcement that it was being done. We announced it last year, and it was crazy. There was I think 1.8 billion clicks on Hollywood Heist related press. So I think we have a potentially viral thing here that I hope is.
So once this movie comes out and you're incredibly successful and wealthy, will you still talk to me?
Not only will I still talk to you, I will be your correspondent for Eye on the Desert.
Oh, that's perfect.
Let me know if there's anything going on at the Mizell.
I'll carry the camera.
The Mizell Senior Center. You can be my cameraman.
I would love to do that.
Randy, we're going down to the Mizell Senior Center for bingo night.
Well, I'm already there, so it's going to be convenient.
That's easy. That's convenient. We love that. I want to really thank you, Mike. You have been an inspiration. I have watched you from a young guy with a camera on his shoulder to really living your dream in Hollywood and not doing it in small style, but big style, and it's very cool.
I'm trying, brother. I'm trying.
He's been telling me this story for a while. I was so excited to meet you.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah. Thank you. And next up will be, you know what? I'll come back on when I get the star next year.
That's right. Is the nomination in?
I don't know. We got to, you know what? I'm putting it out there tonight on the air.
I think with it, we need to be doing a podcast at the star location.
We're already on location at Little Bar. That's the whole gig. That's
you
the
do
whole
it here
gig.
at the bar.
Randy
the after party here.
About twice a week he says, we should take this thing on the road and do it in different... I'm like, we are on the road.
He just hasn't figured out. I'm trying to figure out how to do this alone.
Right.
Somewhere on the road. But go ahead.
I can arrange that. I'll buy you a bus ticket. Where do you want to go? All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hard rap.
My thanks to Mr. Mike Hatton. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, brother.
Great. John McMullen, our producer, and Mr. Randy Florence, whose only desire is to do this alone. That is what I got out of this today.
Who are you going to talk to if you're doing it alone?
Like so many things in his life, he wants to do it alone. That wraps up this edition of Big Conversations, Little Bar. We'll be back again next time on your favorite podcast platform, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Please. Buy merchandise.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Big Conversations Little Bar. Recorded on location at Skip Paige's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, the center of the Coachella Valley Universe. This program is a production of the Mutual Broadcasting System. All episodes are available from BigConversationsLittleBar.com or from most major podcast portals, including Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music.